In short, Polestar is the fully electric, sporty / luxurious arm of Volvo. They launched in 2017, there's already 2 models out there in the wild, and the purpose of today's video is to show you their new model, their first SUV. Of course it's electric. We're here in Copenhagen for a whistle-stop tour of this, the Polestar 3. I'm Jonny Smith, welcome to the Late Break Show. Okay, before we start delving into the Polestar 3, let's just have a quick recap of the past and the forthcoming Polestar models, all right? So, Polestar 1, rare bird, PHEV, so plug-in GT, I used to call it the Swedish Mustang, carbon fibre, 600 odd horsepower, only 1,500 worldwide sold. Chris Harris has got one from Top Gear, a man of taste. Polestar 2, the popular one, over 67,000 sold, saloon, 4-door, long range launched in 2020 with up to 341 miles WLTP. It's a good car. I've just refreshed myself with one last week. Polestar 3, we'll come on to that in a minute. Polestar 4 will be a smaller version of this, Porsche Macan size they say, like a shrunken version of that, but not a Russian doll. Polestar 5 is going to be a 4-door GT engineered in the UK with bonded aluminium kind of construction, out in 2024, 800 volt mechanicals. Polestar 6 has been announced and we've seen a bit of it recently, and it's a 2+2 cabriolet roadster thing, confirmed for production, and it's going to be on the same platform as the Polestar 5 and it's going to be out in 2026. Okay, history lesson over of Polestar. Let's go into this, the 3. We're here in Copenhagen, Denmark, in what is an old kind of railway warehouse. It's pretty random and we don't have a lot of time with the car, so excuse me for using lots of notes. You know the way I am on this show. The CEO, Thomas Ingenlath, who's just done several talks for us, who looks a little bit like a German Liam Neeson, he says that this car is an SUV, all right, and it will cater for customers who want to sit high as if they're riding a horse and experience sustainable luxury. Sustainable is a key word for Polestar with the way in which the car is constructed, trying to be carbon neutral as a company by 2030, and also sporty, because remember Polestar's always thought of being sporty. I'm going to come back to the whole SUV mention in a minute, because that's something that interests me immensely. So let's do an overview of Polestar 3. Okay, this is the overview before we delve into the design. It's going to be launched as a dual motor, 489 brake horsepower, 360 kilowatt, 840 Newton meter car with 111 kilowatt hour battery pack. Big battery pack, right? And that's going to have a WLTP range of 610 kilometers, which I think is 379 miles. EPA, if you're American, range of 300 miles. Price, the launch car, which will be fully spec'd, very high spec, 80,000 quid. You'll be able to get a performance version for I think £5,000 and a bit on top, should you wish. Anyway, it's got a 400 volt high voltage system comprising of 204 prismatic cells in 17 modules made by CATL, and they all live obviously down below in the skateboard platform there. Polestar are really keen to become like carbon neutral by 2030, as I said before, and the PS2, the Polestar 2, it sounds like a PlayStation but I call it PS2, was the world's first EV to employ a traceable minerals scheme for all of their battery construction elements, so cobalt, mica, nickel, all of those sorts of elements. So it's a bit like ethical diamond mining. So there's a lot of questions with people with EVs saying, yeah, but like where'd you get all the stuff from, and isn't there human trafficking involved, and terrible pollution? Well, Polestar are seeking to address that, making sure that they can not only dismantle these cars and recycle them responsibly, but also source these key elements responsibly. This is not an 800 volt car, not like Porsche, Hyundai, Kia. Polestar have made a point of saying it's 400 volts, and the charge door is here on the back. And they've said, well, this will do up to 250 kilowatts DC, okay? A 10 to 80% charge in half an hour, which is impressive. It'll charge up to 11 kilowatts AC in 11 hours, 16 amp, 3-phase. And like I say, it's a big old battery. There is also talk of in the future, Polestar doing vehicle to grid, but this won't. Dimensions. Come round here. So this interests me, okay? Look at it. It's up to here on me. It's not a really high car. It was launched on a sort of plinth. And in all the pictures, it looked very high. But I don't think this is a particularly high car. And I like that about it. There's gap between arch and tyre. And his cladding, SUV-ish cladding. But anyway, look at these dimensions. I'll put them somewhere on the screen now. The Polestar 3, okay, is 132 millimeters taller than the Polestar 2. It's 10 millimeters higher than a Volvo XC70. Remember those? So the estate car with the cladding is 10 millimeters higher. Not much. So is it an SUV? Hold that thought. 53 millimeters shorter than a BMW iX. 294 millimeters longer than a PS2, a Polestar 2, and 81 millimeters lower than a BMW iX. And the Lotus Electra, made by Geely, the people that own Volvo and Polestar, remember? The Lotus Electra, which I featured in a previous video, and I'll put the link to it above my head now, that car is 205 mil longer than this, a Lotus, and 16 mil higher than this. So that begs the question, are we looking at an SUV? Design time. So that guy, the CEO, Thomas Ingenlath, he mentioned that Polestar was almost filling the void left by a defunct Swedish car maker. It does have an air of Saab about it, Polestar, and I think it attracts that sort of a person. It's always understated class, it's always uncluttered. Minimalism with a high level of sophistication is what Polestar say. Thor's hammer. It's a signature dish now for a lot of Polestars, and these are extra thin. These are full LED, 1.3 megapixel headlights. I never thought in my life we'd be talking about megapixels in headlights, but that's where we're at. So they're quite slim. And actually from the side, from this angle, to me, they really remind me of when I was in Japan when they launched the concept of the R35 GTR Nissan. There's something skyline-y about it from this angle, and that's a good thing. There's a splitter. Yeah, down there. Down there is a splitter. So can you see? If you remember the Jag I-Pace design, the Jag I-Pace has this big sculpted thing here to break up that wind and disperse it going over the bonnet and over the top, because of course the whole SUV versus economy thing is difficult. Trying to push a big block through the air, make it efficient, is hard. And that's one of the things that Polestar's done to address it. And there's these nice creases in the bonnet, but it's got a big bonnet. It's a really, really long, on the side profile. You see it's a very long bonnet for a car that's not got a very big frunk. I'm not gonna lie. Let me just delve into the frunk, hang on. There it is, a little yellow. There we go. So it's got a double latch, I think same as Polestar 2. And I think this is similar to Polestar 2. From memory, this is, 32 litres of frunk / fruit with a magnetic kind of cover. This has got all it's got a waterproof bag in it. But look, lots of plastic space, but actually not much storage. A little hold all, a weekend hold all type thing is okay, but it's not like amazing, is it? It's not Ford F-150 Lightning territory, a car which I really enjoyed when I drove that. I'll put the link above my head for that. So that is your sort of frunky area and your expanse of bonnet, which I'm not sure about is required. Just seems a bit trad. Maybe they're trying to attract people who are driving conventional piston SUVs and they want a conventional proportion. So down below this kind of cool front splitter thing, there's this panel here, which looks like it's made of kind of opaque glass. And there's these little design features which have actually been really hard to achieve according to the Polestar designer, Maximilian. For example, I know it's weird, but like it says what it is. There's words like on the door and like here, which reminds me of sort of 90s Japanese import cars, which tell you all about their performance and capability. But these aren't stickers. These are put on behind on this panel. And so it makes them weather resistant, and it's actually quite a difficult thing to do apparently. So they've wanted to include this as part of the sort of educational process of the car. And here you've got exposed heating element for, I think, the sort of adaptive radar system, of which what this is. The LiDAR system, which it needs for autonomous or semi-autonomous driving, lives up there on the top, and again it's really discreet. It's making noises down there because they're active flaps, aren't they? Yeah, they're active flaps. Quite a lot of matte finish kind of black going on the arches and on the sides. We'll come on to that in a minute. And this detail I've seen before on Polestars, I'm sure, which reminds me of a whale's tail, but I'm not sure if that's what they call it. But let's just call it that. Polestars are always available in very sort of sensible architect spec colour palette. Grey, quite a sensible blue, grey, black, grey, and white. And I think the white actually shows up the details the best, which is one of the reasons why we're filming it. Side profile, the side design, okay, again, not as high as you think, right? 5-door, with this sort of sweeping, fairly high waistline, glass roof, which goes into a semi-glass tailgate, and I'll show you the tailgate in a second. But there's some neat little details. Totally frameless door mirrors, when you come around and you see them, totally frameless, which apparently makes them 30% smaller, more aerodynamic, but they also look quite classy, like the frameless rear view mirror that we've seen in a few cars recent time. The wheels, you can get 21s or 22s, they're massive. There's I think 3 different alloy wheel designs. They're all okay, they're all diamond cut, fairly conventional. I don't think any car manufacturers are doing like really cool wheels at the moment. There seems to be a distinct lack of creativity to me. Just imagine if you brought this height down a little bit and you look at the roofline of the car and suddenly you go, is this an SUV? Or is it just being called an SUV so it will sell in America and China, big markets, but is it actually just a really cool electric estate car? Discuss. There's these weird, oh, I haven't put the bonnet down properly, but don't worry about that. There's these little, I don't even know what they are. I don't know if these are side marker lights or just, I don't know if they're to do with, I don't know if they're to do with radars for the system, I'm not sure, but interesting little touch. 25 centimetre ground clearance on the Polestar 3, and it's got air chamber, airbag suspension that's adaptive, so you can go up to 25 centimetre ground clearance. Obviously it'll lower itself down for highway use and all that kind of thing, and sport mode if you want to stiffen it up. The wheels are forged, I forgot to mention that actually. Bit of Renault Kadjar kind of cladding I reckon here. You can't notice this stuff so much in the darker colours, obviously. Flush door handles, which we've seen a lot of on manufacturers again for a bit of aero. And there's this discreet kind of classy hip line, which we've seen on a lot of Volvos. Polestar don't want me to say Volvo because they're a separate company, but they're sort of a sister company because this is based on a Volvo platform. I think it's called the SPA 2, not the corner shop, SPA 2. So this is shared with a lot of other Volvos, this platform. But this hip and this kind of, this dark piece of design here is quite Volvo-esque. And that brings us on to this back end here. You've got this cool little piece of glass that goes into the trim, that goes into this huge spoiler. And crucially, this roof line that goes into a fastback. Now I know it's attractive, and in the press in the press launch yesterday, they were saying how they've dropped the roof line from a conventional SUV and made it more fastbacky. But yet they were saying that they want people to sit up high because that's the SUV way. But as I was watching, I was thinking, you're basically reversing the process of an SUV and turning it back into an estate car. Like I say, it's 10 mil higher than a Volvo XC70, which is an estate car 4x4. It's not an SUV. But if it sells, call it an SUV, I don't give a shit. Really cool spoiler here. Spoilt slightly by I don't know, quite a messy rear wiper. I don't know about that. just seems a bit obvious to me. But I do like the glass, sort of half glass tailgate, which according to someone at Polestar, they did say to me, in there is the aerial for the radio. And it's arranged in a pattern which accidentally might look like an offensive symbol in Chinese. Don't quote me on that, because I don't know for sure. Look at the light bar on this. There's a sequence, it's 168 LED sequential light bar, this thing. And from above, you see these lovely lines. I like the back end the most because it's properly like, if you come down here and you look down the side profile, it's completely cut off. It's quite snub backed. And that reminds me of like an Evoque or maybe even a Ford Flex. American viewers might know the Ford Flex, a sort of very cool station wagon that I had a lot of time for. Or even a bit of Rivian R1S. They've got these weird artificial kind of ears. And I don't know whether it's to do with kicking the air out as the air comes around here, I'm just not sure. Right, boot. Now this is weird as well. On the launch, Polestar introduced a pair of dogs, quite large dogs. And when we open the boot, it's 484 litres, which is actually not that big for a big car. But we're used to seeing quite small boots on big EVs these days, which is confusing. You know, Polestar 2 is 446 litres, ID4 is 543, which is bigger, BMW iX bigger. There's no 7-seat option. They've made a point of saying that. I expect you'll see that in Volvo, guys. But here it is. Flush entry point. Probably wouldn't be able to fit a big dog cage in there because of that fastback, which I do think probably compromises it somewhat. Five seats, flat floor, a lot of room. They've made a point of getting those seats back as far as possible, and because of that they've probably made the boot smaller, so it's all about lots of space. 5 adults with lots of room. Inside the PS3, okay, like the PS2, the Polestar 2, it uses the Google, and it was the first to use it I think, the Google kind of Android system, which is incredible, but it's also got this NVIDIA drive core system, which is like a gaming supercomputer which uses all the graphics and stuff, and it is sensational. But not only that, I've had a quick flip of it and a play, and it works really well. It just seems to operate. It's quite simple, and for someone like me who's a bit simple, it works. Nice seatbelts, Polestar hallmark. Lots of sustainable interior bits. If you don't want leather, you can get lots of recyclable fibres. They're no stranger to making these things special. This thing also has an optional Bowers & Wilkins audio system, 28 speakers, including ones in the headrests, headliner, Dolby Atmos. This is supposed to sound incredible. I can't wait to try it. It's also got an advanced air cleaning system which removes lots of particles via ionization and removes 90% of viruses, which are quite topical these days. Anyway, I've got to end my session here with the PS3, but all I'm going to say is, despite the fact that it's a fantastic shaped car, it leaves me thinking, is it an SUV? I don't think it is. I'm going to call this an estate, a really good looking 5-seat estate car that's classy, albeit 80,000 quid. It's all steel, so it's not revolutionary in that respect. But it promises decent 50-50 weight distribution, centre of gravity that's nice and low, towing capacity of 2.2 tonnes, but it does weigh 2.6 tonnes itself. I think it's going to sell. Question is, what do you think? Are you excited for the Polestar 3? Let me know in the comments. As usual, thanks so much for watching The Late Break Show. If you want to become a subscriber, you can. You can support me via Patreon if you want. You'll see stuff like this typically early. I've got to go. I'm being ushered away. Bye.